Southampton versus Arsenal FA Cup quarter-final match reflection through the Canon lens. So reflecting on the game, starting with the starting lineup, I felt that was a strong enough starting lineup to win the game. I was curious what sort of lineup we was gonna, put out, but I thought it was a strong enough team. It was great to have Odegaard, our captain, back. And it was great to see Dalman start on the right wing. Thoughts on the first half now? Obviously, snapshot of the first half. I think best chances fell to Dalman and Odegaard. Both went close, both forced good saves from their keeper. We forced a lot of corners early on in that first half. I'm not too sure about this short corner business. For me, just put it into the box. We've been effective from set pieces. I didn't feel the short set pieces worked today. But yeah, that's my opinion. But yeah, their game plan though was working. They set deep and they caught us on the counter back. Their defenders and their goalie will just knock it long and they'll get a flick on. And they'll utilize the gaps. When MLS tucked into midfield, and Ben White went forward. They counter-attacked. On the flanks. Mosquera saved us. Let's not forget Mosquera saved us. And the signs were there. That they could score a goal. And then it was the 36th minute. Yeah. So again, the goal came from the flanks. Came from the flank, the right-hand flank. The ball got crossed in. Ben White missed it. The player chested it down and struck it into the goal to make it 1-0 to them. And that was it, 1-0, going into the break, 1-0 down at half time. And you know what? I was disappointed. My half-time thoughts, I felt we had spells, where we tested their keeper. But their game plan was effective, and when they got their chance, they took it. I felt that was the difference in the first half. I was just hoping in the second half, come out, get an early equaliser and go on and win the game. So second half now, thoughts on the second half. They almost scored early on. I think they had a shot off the crossbar. I was thinking, wait, are we playing Southampton or are we playing PSG? Because the way they were, their counter-attacking football was it's mind-blowing, Southampton. I was thinking, wow. So yeah, I was just thinking, you know what, we need to make some subs. Early subs were needed. Made those early subs in the 69th minute. Gabriel got on the ball, played it through to Havertz, who made a nice late run into the box. He, cuts it back into the path of Gyökeres, who finishes it nicely, to build on his recent, goal scoring form. I didn't see the Mars celebration today. Because I was thinking, you know what, he knows. Let's get the ball back and let's try and go on and get the win. So we're thinking 1-1, let's go and win the game now. Dalman did really well. He also, in the second half, I remember he cut in, smashed it. Keeper made a good save. And obviously Martinelli, we had a corner. Martinelli just smashed the ball wide by the post. And then in the 86th minute now, again, it came from the flanks. There was some good counter-attacking play from them. It came from the flanks. They cut in, drifted into the box. They played it to their striker, who I think who just came on, their super sub. And he took the goal well and made it 2-1 to Southampton. And that was it. Just like that, we're out of the FA Cup. Honestly, I'm lost for words, but stay tuned for the player analysis.